Among some who do not sympathize with us, the Tea Party has a reputation as a violent and bigoted group. And we wanted to put the lie to that. And so when we conceived this event, the first person we called up and asked to speak was the Sheriff of Lake County, Mark Curran. Mark's taken some flack in the press and from his opponent over his appearance here, so please give a warm welcome to Mark Curran.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, Paul. As Paul said, my name is Mark Curran. I'm your Lake County Sheriff. I'm happy to address what I believe is the most lawful-looking crowd I've seen since being in front of the Eagle Scouts recently. So, God bless you all, and I hope everybody in the world can see y'all. What I'm going to talk to you about is a couple of things that I see as being important at this crossroads in our country. And in essence, I think it was brought out by Paul as he talked about some of the flack that I've taken. There was a guest essayist named Lawrence Dana Schiller that wrote a piece in a weekly column regarding the Tea Party, and he accused the Tea Party group of being racist and what have you, and how dare I associate with such a crowd. Couldn't be further from the truth, and it's really insulting to the people out here. What I want to talk about with regards to what the Tea Party is, we believe that we are one nation under God, and without the blessing of God, America never would have been created, and what a substantially lesser place the world would have been without God. And the Tea Party subscribes to that. America has been the greatest defender around the globe of freedom. America has been the greatest driver in terms of economic ingenuity and spreading the wealth around the globe. America is the greatest, most philanthropic nation in the globe. I think what also unites the Tea Party coming together is the realization about the people out there that there is an increasingly growing secularization and moral relativism in our culture. I think you all see it, and I think you all know the dangers of it. It's led to a decay that's influenced by the violence and pornography that's come out of Hollywood. It's led to an economic decay in which every man, woman, and child out there in this country is responsible for $43,000 in debt if we were to pay down the national debt. The secularization and moral relativism has led to the breakdown of the family. Where you go back to 1965, 3% of all children were born out of wedlock. Now it's 40%. You look at what's going on in the African American community, it's 70%. No fathers in the home. We're in trouble if that continues, and I think the people out there get it. I think the people out there get it that the abortion and the travesty that that creates in terms of our society, where between 20 and 30% of all of our children are aborted. That that's a violence that we can't tolerate, and God will not bless a nation that does that. We're reproducing at a rate of 1.4 when we need 2.3 to carry on. We need to become less selfish. We need to become more in terms of what that flag stands for and what God stands for, and what He would have us do, and what America, our founders, would have us do. I want to talk to you a little bit about a liberal politician in the classic sense of moral relativism that I brought up before. Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy comes from the area where the Tea Party was founded, Boston, Massachusetts. And you look at Ted Kennedy, he served in the United States Senate for 40 years. We know that his alcoholism and his battle with that lasted about 40 years. We know in terms of what happened in terms of his life, what's been made public, in terms of the womenizing, in terms of Ted Kennedy's ultimately what happened down with his nephew in West Palm Beach with the rape, that he was there that weekend drinking, his alcoholism continuing through it, numerous incidents throughout his career. We know that his first wife, Joan, left, and that much has been written that some of her alcoholism and demise as a result of Ted Kennedy and the life that he led. We know that in 1969, he drove a girl off the cliff, off a bridge in Massachusetts, and she fell to her demise and died. We know that he did not go to rescue her. We know that he did not contact the police. We know he didn't go to law enforcement until many, many hours later. So regardless of what his blood alcohol level was at that point in time, we know that he's responsible for that girl. And what he did was he buried his life in alcohol because of the pain of his sinful nature. When we look at Ted Kennedy and what he brought in terms of the Senate, the U.S. Senate, in the concept of moral relativism. Ted Kennedy was once pro-life, as was Bill Clinton, as was Jesse Jackson, as was Al Gore. But he changed. He adopted the attitude, don't judge me and I won't judge you. There won't be any judging in this world, and that'll be my political philosophy, and that's the philosophy that we'll carry. And it carried over in terms of his pro-life stance, and it carried over in terms of his politics. Moral relativism. I know that we can't afford this airport in Congressman Murda's district, that nobody's going to go to this airport, that it's going to be millions of dollars on the taxpayers, and it's going to be basically sitting there idle. I know it's garbage, but you know what? As long as you can get what you can, I'll get what I can, and we'll all be happy. It doesn't matter that America as a whole can't afford it. We're not going to think that far ahead. We're not going to think in terms of the greaterness of this country or the greaterness of the Almighty. We're going to think strictly in terms of ourselves. I'll decide what's morally relative. And that's what happened with Ted Kennedy. I don't mean to pronounce, what happened on his deathbed or what have you, but that's the legacy of liberalism that Ted Kennedy leaves and his disciples leave, and that's got to stop, folks.
Yeah.
How do we get some notes, but they're gone because it's too hard to turn the pages. How do we move from that Ted Kennedy era that's brought us into so much trouble, and how do we get beyond that? Where do we go from here? Well, I think there's a number of things that we need to do. One is we begin to evangelize, and I don't think in the classical sense, because in essence, we must remember that information is received according to the mode of the receiver. So, if you're a lifetime alcoholic, and you've been killing your conscience and what have you, it doesn't matter how brilliant and articulate I am. If I were able to have that conversation with Ted Kennedy while he still served on the U.S. Senate, it would be in one ear and out the other. Information is received according to the mode of the receiver. So he's not going to get it. There has to be a light within us that draws people to us. We have to be the light that draws, and that light is love. It's love for our country. It's love for our fellow man. It's love for our neighbor. It's got to be real. And that will, in essence, draw it. I know there's some Rush Limbaugh fans out there. I saw Rush's right sign. I got to be honest with you. As people know about me, I'm somebody that tells it like it is. And although I think Rush Limbaugh is a funny guy, I think that in many ways he does spew some hateful stuff. And in many ways, what he says is garbage. And I'll tell you something. If I was Chairman Michael Steele when he called him on it that one time, and then Michael Steele wound up backing down and apologizing, wouldn't happen with me. I'd say, Rush, bring it on, buddy. Bring it on. Bring your butt down here and let's see what you're made of. Not afraid of the guy, and I don't think we should be afraid of any bully, whether it's a Keith Olbermann or a bully on the right. We need to be light. We need to be a light similar to the light of God. That's the way we grow. So we need that. We also need to be in prayer. That's what's critical. We absolutely need to pray. And our nation was founded upon prayer, and that's absolutely the most important thing. When I say, once again, information is received according to the mode of the receiver, I can't convince Ted Kennedy. It's not possible. You know, Louisiana, what happened recently with regards to the Gulf? And you all see it. And you've seen what's been tried in the efforts of both the government and the efforts of British Petroleum, and they're at a standstill, and it's not making progress, and it's getting more desperate by the day. And what's happening? Louisiana legislature passed, in essence, not a referendum, but an affirmation that it would be a day of prayer. And what they said in doing so was that we have seen that mere mortal cannot do anything at this point. And it is only a miracle from the Almighty that's going to save this. And that's the realization. That's where we're at. That's where we got to get on our knees. We need to be on our knees praying for these people that are lost, that they see it. We need to spend time in prayer. That's what's going to save this country. You know, with regards to the Tea Party and what I think of these people, I think they're wonderful people. They're true patriots. And I'll tell you something. When I talk about prayer, it's happening. Glenn Stewart, the RALC, out there praying. They meet about 2 miles from here every Wednesday to pray for our country. When Paul Mitchell was a